little bit of a more serious one to start it off with. Why trans people are scared right now. The presentation, 10 months procrastinated, but sadly more relevant now than when I first had the idea. Hi, my name's Jessica. I'm a trans woman, and I just hit 2 years with the news team. Funnily enough, I'm about...
Yay! Oh my
Yeah!
god!
Woohoo!
You
Gang.
can drink. You can drink.
Take a drink of my voltage. Because I don't do White Monster, but I still got to do some kind of energy thing. Funnily enough, I'm also just about to reach the 2-year anniversary of when I discovered I was trans. I live deep within a red state, and I'm constantly made painfully aware of that fact. I am in a constant state of anxiety rooted in the state of the US and the dangers I face living in the world's, quote, freest country. For myself, my family, and my friends. I also have to worry about how my mere existence is slowly being criminalized, branded as pornographic, and othered, all while trying to make an honest living. I do want to preface this presentation, just in case, as my opinion, not necessarily that of the entire SWAC News team. Tried to keep soapboxing to a minimum, but it's hard to stay objective when you are part of the subject matter. So, who are trans people? Well, trans people make up anywhere from 1.3 to 2.3 million Americans. The numbers varied quite a bit while researching, but that
they
likely
all
had
know
more to...
each other and can answer all of your questions about every other trans person. It's a joke.
Yes,
it's a joke.
every trans person. It's called T-Fi.
Like every group of people, they are famously a monolith.
Hey, estrogen pills are blue, and so there's Bluetooth and then there's blue pill. And,
Bada bida boo ba. I'm blue.
But it likely varied more based off the ages of the sources. 67% of trans people are trans women, MTF, such as myself, whereas 33% are trans men, FTM. Though I should clarify, this doesn't include anyone who identifies as non-binary or some other gender.
You said non-binary.
Okay. Trans people have always... Somebody's rustling
Max,
around.
Shut your non-binary ass up with the crinkling.
Eating chips. I'm trying to listen to the presentation.
I got doughballs. Does anyone want doughballs?
Asshole.
I go back to back.
The crinkliest rapper in the movie theater.
Yo, is that the real golden sriracha?
Elbow deep in a jar of Pringles.
All right, I'm mute.
All right. Where was I? Trans people can be any age, though the younger generation of people under 30 is disproportionately identified as trans. That could be due to stigma, bias, and underreporting in older demographics, but that is speculation on my part. Trans people have always existed. We have records going back over 7,000 years of people who have dressed, acted, and referred to themselves in ways that didn't line up with their assigned genders at birth. From androgynous or trans priests of Iana, the Sumerian goddess, to several Greeks in the classical era, to cultures in the Americas and Asia who had multiple recognized genders. In short, this isn't some new fad, it isn't just a feeling, and no matter what people do, we will always exist in some way. And fun fact, not in the presentation notes, but androgynous is literally named after a person from Greek myth. Now, let's get into the part that really made my jaw drop while researching this presentation. What percentage of trans people do y'all think have experienced harassment at work due to their gender or sexuality? 10%, 50%, 75%? You said 80?
Yeah, I said 80, so I guess my guess is 75.
At least
Yeah,
7.
well over half for sure.
So the number you said is shockingly close, assuming you haven't done research on this. The number is 82% of trans people who've experienced discrimination at work, compared to 47% of non-trans LGBT plus people.
I hate to be right.
Which is still 47% of non-trans people too, just for their sexuality or things like that. But
There's so
numbers.
and more than just at work, I actually and I know that I'm going to be the straight white guy who says, I read an article, but I just read an article about someone who was at a goddamn Buffalo Wild Wings in Minnesota who went into a female bathroom. This is a cisgendered woman, went into a female bathroom, and an employee followed them in and said, you can't be in here. You need to go to the men's room because you're clearly a man. And like with their words and actions basically coerced this customer into pulling up their shirt and proving that they were in fact a woman. It's just gross.
Which doesn't even make sense because top surgery exists. So that wouldn't have even actually solved, it would have proved anything. But these crazy people are trying to play investigator. I address it later in the article, in the presentation. But yes, no, it's everywhere. So, how about denial of the ability to work? Any guesses?
Oh Lord, I know that's bad.
75%.3 and a half.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thankfully, it's not that high. 53% of trans people have reported being fired, denied a promotion, or refused a job offer because of their gender identity or sexuality. That's over half. And I can tell you from my own personal experience that I've absolutely had interviewers who took one look at me, made a face, and I knew the interview was over before it truly even began. The number for harassment isn't any brighter either, I'm afraid. 56% of trans people reported harassment, be it sexual, verbal, or physical, at the workplace. And once again, I can unfortunately attest to this fact. Excuse me. I, in a single year, have accrued 7 customer reviews explicitly calling me out as being dressed, quote, inappropriately, wrongly, and even once received a customer review which stated, we will not be shopping at the city I live in's company I work for ever again. And under the why did you rate us like this, they simply answered, and this is an exact quote, the trans help. The trans fucking help.
That
what an odd way to phrase that.
The
too.
Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Yeah, no, they're banned from ever shopping at the
y'all
company again.
Heard of the movie The Help before? Sorry to interrupt you, Jesse. It's a movie that I just find that phrasing ironic because it's a movie that talks about how black women in the early post-Civil War period were treated as handmaidens to basically white noble families in the South. White aristocrats.
Like their wording was intentional in their customer review, huh?
That is where that Southern aristocratic accent comes from. It was from wealthy, affluential Southerners that wanted to sound like the rich European Englishmen, and so they accentuated their accent.
The rich European
Max,
Englishman.
are you the rich European Englishman? Well, English they, all right. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. But so, as messed up as that is, it doesn't directly harm anyone, though it does hurt my entire store staff indirectly, since reviews do matter. But what is a lot more harmful, and even dangerous, is when a grown-ass man with 2 small children came into my store and started screaming in my face. The man was immediately hostile with me, making demands as if I was some sort of subhuman program or something. But about the 4th time he called me sir, mind you, I was in a calf-length flowy dress, full makeup, I have shoulder-length hair, and I had on jewelry. Anyone with 2 brain cells could tell I would want to be referred to as ma'am, or at least not sir. So I very gently said, oh, it's actually ma'am. What happened next was, I kid you not, a full-blown Category 5 Karen with a capital K meltdown in the middle of my store, riddled with profanity, slurs, and insults to both me personally and everyone who worked there. He refused to leave when I asked him to, even though I'm on the management team, and he even initially refused to leave when the store manager told him to. I was sincerely starting to worry that he would become physical with myself or the manager, and started to put distance between us just in case he tried to attack me. That night, after I closed, I had one of my part-timers walk with me to my car to make sure I wasn't jumped by him or one of his friends. I'll never forget, as I was escorting him out of the building, his 2 children, neither of whom could have been over 7 years old, in tow behind him, and he continued throwing profanities at me. I stopped and looked him in the eye and simply said, "Sir, you do realize you're dropping F-bombs in front of your small children, right?" He angrily replied back, "Yeah, well, it's not as bad as what you're doing." What I was doing, I'll remind you, was wearing a dress and politely being asked to be called ma'am. And partially,
horrible behavior.
Yeah.
How dare you?
I'm waiting for the moments it's appropriate to interject because I don't want to ruin the tone of your story. But I was gonna make some joke about like, yeah, what a snowflake, am I right? Like all these people always act like that.
Get him,
they're like,
get him.
But everybody else is the sensitive ones.
Get him.
Like, bro could have just
Fuck
kept
him
it
up.
to himself. But
Yeah.
anyways,
I like to imagine that Cullen is like Max's bulldog. He's just like Max is behind you, like, yeah, you bite him.
But partially to do with that whole situation is to do with coworkers and bosses. Trans people are twice as likely as other LGBT people, which is 67% versus 57%, to leave their workplace due to harassment or treatment. But we aren't done with harassment and work yet. Only 29% of trans employees feel comfortable.
Worse than that.
Did I say? What did I say? 29?
Yeah.
Dyslexia. It's fun. Only 39% of employees feel comfortable with their coworkers enough to be fully out at the workplace, and 36% are not out to their direct supervisor. While 39% have also changed where they use the bathroom or how often for similar concerns. I personally have had to do the calculus in the moment of, do I know anyone here who would defend me? Is this establishment friendly to trans people, or at least not hostile enough to harass me when I use the bathroom? I've had people stare me down as I headed into or out of a bathroom. Once, recently at a gas station, a large man whose wife had just entered the restroom literally stood in front of the door and mad-dogged me for about 3 minutes as I looked at snacks and drinks, and only gave it a rest once his wife had left the bathroom. Not a single word was exchanged by any of us, but he immediately treated me like a threat, and in turn acted threateningly towards me simply for existing. And in addition, 33% of trans people reported avoiding work-related events due to either not being out at work or concerns over how they would be treated. Now, let's move on to money and financial opportunities. After all, in the capitalist hellscape we live in, money is unfortunately what makes the world go round. 60% of trans people make less than $50,000 per year, compared to only 32% of the general population in the US. And I know what your first thought might be, but Jessica, $50,000 a year is a wild amount of money. That's so much. Well, yeah, maybe if you're living in a deeply rural, isolated town like where I grew up. But those are the exact places that are the most hostile to trans people existing. The first experience I ever had with a trans person was finding out that one of the kids in my youth group at church, quote, kept thinking they're a girl for some reason, and the entire church condemning the family, her friends, cutting them off, and there were even threats made against her and her family. But even in a fairly low cost of living state, $50,000 a year, and keep in mind that they make less than that, can barely keep you in a one-bed, one-bath apartment with groceries that are slightly better than what I ate in college. Going further into this point, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to reference there that the poverty line in the United States is about $42,000 a year. So that's a relevant statistic for that number that you just quoted there.
Shit, I'm barely above the poverty line then. I thought it was lower than
well, that. It's 42,000 for this isn't a terribly recent statistic that I'm remembering off the top of my head. This was, I think, pre-COVID, so it's probably even higher than that now.
Jesus. Well, funny that you should mention that. 29% of trans people live below the poverty line, compared to 14% of people in the general population. And for Latinx people, the number is as high as 41%. That's just shy of half of trans Latinx folks who are in deep poverty. And that's almost directly tied to the fact that trans people are vastly more likely to be homeless in America, 0.53% of trans people compared to only 0.18% in general. That's like 2.5 times as likely. Oh, and would you look at that? We're on to the criminalization of trans identity in the United States.
If I could very briefly just point out, if you are unlucky enough to be a minority race who is also trans, let's just say like a transgender woman, you have unfortunately landed on the Scrabble triple points minority board, and I'm very sorry about that.
Congratulations, you're fucked. Be honest.
Yeah, they chose.
Oh yeah.
They got nightmare difficulty on the spawn lottery.
Listen, man, I'm
Living
just
life
saying,
in
okay, that's
hardcore
some
mode.
fucking South Park stick of truth.
It is.
I gotta be honest with you, dude. I gotta be honest. Come on now.
Trans people are more likely to be homeless, and homelessness is being criminalized at an alarming rate. Whether it's loitering charges, littering, unauthorized camping, or even just reports of, quote, suspicious activity, homeless people are treated as automatically criminal unless they can prove that they aren't, and trans people are more likely to be homeless. That in and of itself makes trans people more harmed by anti-homelessness measures. I wrote this the day before Trump sent troops into DC to remove homeless people. Holy shit, I couldn't have planned that better. Oh my god. I wrote
creating
that,
his
and
own
then,
brown
like,
shirt
when I
unit is pretty
when
apt.
when I woke up the next day, I saw that and went, Jesus Christ. So, yes, there's that.
How are you
and-
doing, Americans? Are you good?
Not well.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, man, we're not good.
Yeah. Every day is a struggle mentally.
I've started my second job, and that's on top of freelancing for the news as well. Thankfully, the second one is salary, so I don't have to log hours, which is great for a creative position, because how the hell do you log hours for a creative position?
It's pretty.
But yeah, not great. Trans people are also being arrested for using the bathroom, much like I mentioned earlier. I wish we'd have been able to include it in the news back when it happened, but I didn't hear about it until it was too late to really add anything to the docket. But in March, a young trans woman by the name of Marcy Redgin went to the bathroom in a Florida courthouse, only to be pulled out by police and thrown in jail for violating a law that mandates that people use the bathroom based off the gender they were assigned at birth. Now, I want to show y'all some images, and we're going to play a little game called Who's Allowed in the Bathroom. I'm going to show you a few pictures, and I want you to tell me which bathroom you think this person should use based off these draconian gender enforcement laws.
What's the word here? Is like stereotyping encouraged for this exercise?
I would
Listen,
say
man, I don't want to be fucking canceled, but like,
I was gonna
do
say,
this shit, dude. I'm ready.
because
Like,
the very people that are going to be transvestigating people and following people into bathrooms and shit like that are the people who will use stereotypes.
Transvestigating is the stupidest word I've ever heard.
Is that the first time you've heard transvestigate?
That's a gold one.
Is that the first time you've heard transvestigate?
It is, yeah.
Oh
I've
my
never
god,
heard of it,
I
dude.
didn't
Crazy.
even get into transvestigation in this. Like, there's people that claim that Michelle Obama is trans, people that,
Yes, I did see that. That's true.
people that claim that
Yes.
Beyonce is trans, people that claim that Timothy Charlemagne is trans. Like, it's called transvestigating, and they will go through and do freaking, I don't know if any of y'all played Disco Elysium, but they will do measure head level,
Real.
like
They're real.
Measure Candy from Django Unchained levels of like cranial research and
Cranial
stuff, to
measurements.
be like, oh, their Adam's apple is like 10 millimeter or 10 micrometers larger than it should be, therefore they must be
Wait,
a man.
is this the
Real.
same
Fucking
same,
negative Kendall tilt, man. That's
Is this
what
the
it
same
is.
train
Yeah.
of thought?
Real.
Is this the
Oh
same
my
train of
God.
thought as like Abby from The Last of Us is trans?
Yes,
Okay.
probably.
Yeah.
Same, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
same
the same
crowd.
echo
Now,
chamber.
There,
It's-
there are some people in LGBTQ spaces that are very much. I'm going to get off of that slide because I don't know who that man is. At least this is a public figure, a very public figure, I should say. Um, there are some LGBTQ spaces where people will kind of. I mean, everyone saw the whole, oh, Captain America and Bucky are gay for each other thing. So some people will do it in more of like a self-inserting or playful way, but there are absolutely people who will be like, they're trans. Every major actor in Hollywood is transgender, and they want to force your kids to suck on, penis-shaped bottles
Estrogen
in
bottles.
preschool.
They're gonna hit you with the trans ray gun. You're gonna want to be trans.
Was it under Bolsonaro's regime where they claimed that there were elementary schools that were giving kids dick-shaped bottles to suck on? And it's like, no, that of all the things, what's the meme phrase? Of all the things that have never happened, that thing has never happened the most.
It was. Do you remember, like, during the Trump administration, like during the Trump campaign, they were saying that like not Michelle Obama. Jesus, I was still stuck on that one.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris was granting funds to give like Hispanic prisoners bottom surgery or something like that. It was just bizarre. Like, just ran like this shit that they just made up.
Yeah,
but
we'll get into that later. But like,
I was
going to
say, let's not forget that Jess does have to leave in 40 minutes. So.
Oh God. Yep.
Listen, I'm ready to play trans or not. Okay, I'll be honest. Okay, so, I'm ready.
Oh my God! You
A
inspired
or
me.
B, men's room or ladies' room?
The one with the shitter.
He's giving a lot of like God and gnome energy, so I think he should go in the gnome room.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a dude.
Yeah, the secret third thing.
Yeah. And the answer is, in fact, B, the ladies' room. That's right. Per Florida state law, the bald, bearded, burly man you're looking at would be forced to use the ladies' room. And now for contestant number 2. Let's have a look. A, men's
100%.
room. B, ladies. Jesus.
I know this person.
I told you I was ready. I'm ready.
He is Captain Transvestigator. What do you expect?
We're doing this.
He's doing a speed run. This is
Vernier is Captain Transvestigator.
Who's
I
the
see that chin. I see that. No, kid.
I see that.
who's the Sherlock Holmes of the transvestigation community? Like, who's like their flagship Sherlock Holmes person?
Vernier, obviously.
Bro.
you man of the spokesman.
A Don
Okay.
Jr.
So, yeah. So is the answer? What's everyone's answer for number 2?
I'm going
B, ladies' room. The correct answer is in fact A. That's right. Per Florida state legislator, they would have this beautiful young woman using the men's room instead. Now, those are kind of tough, but let's move on to one more, and this might be a bit of a head scratcher, but it might be a little bit obvious. A or B, men's room or ladies' room?
Neither. They're watching, what is that?
Family Guy.
The Cleveland show.
Execute them right now. I don't care who they are.
They get to go out into the woods.
Jesus. Okay.
So
you might have
They have to use the outhouse.
Okay, so you might have a hard time telling, but I'm sure if you know what you're looking for, you can tell the answer's A, the men's room. Except, no, not the men's room. And in fact, in case you didn't know, not only is this a cisgendered woman, that is a woman by the name of Danny Davis, a woman who was followed into a Walmart bathroom by a man who was threatening her for using the bathroom. And do you know what Walmart initially did to help this poor woman who was harassed? They fired her.
Oh, I was gonna say coupons.
Sorry.
Okay. Well.
Sorry, are you saying that a man went into a bathroom not assigned to his gender and he didn't have a problem?
Yes, and he didn't have to dress like a woman to do it. They fired a cisgendered woman who was using the ladies' room and was harassed by a transphobic man. And it's perfect that you had mentioned earlier that thing that just happened in Buffalo Wild Wings, where someone was followed in by, this time it was an employee following in a customer, but the time I'm talking about was an employee followed by a customer. But this is what we mean when trans people and allies say that what protects us protects you, that what oppresses us oppresses you. Hell, there have literally been bills in the US that would require genital inspections of minors to play sports at school. Some More News did a great video on the topic, but yes, being anti-trans now means being pro-violating the bodily autonomy and personal space of literal children. But please tell me more about how trans people are the threat to children's safety.
I mean, if
Bars.
you're going to take their play, we could basically just call them just pro-pedophiles.
Yes. I mean, it's also the party that is...
Release the Epstein files.
That they just... So much shit is happening all at once. They just started pushing the Supreme Court to repeal gay marriage. At the same time, there are multiple states that have had recent bills to ban marriage of anyone under 12, anyone under 14, anyone under 16, anyone under 10 that have been rejected by Republican Congresses.
Yeah, because you don't want to infringe on people's freedom, right?
Now, I
Yes,
remember
because
saying
they're
after they
fucking
overturned Roe v.
pedophiles
Wade,
that are
they come
projecting
for
onto
homophobic
trans
bodies.
people.
We are so not getting monetized today.
No.
Oh, no way, dude. Really?
I mean, you're starting off with, this topic. It's not going to be monetized at all.
I just very briefly want to say, Pyrus saying dick-shaped bottles at school with the current lack of funding and education in the U.S. No way.
Well, so I think it was
Dick-shaped
in
bottles in this
Brazil
economy?
is where that rumor was spread.
I'm gonna
But,
assume it's not better there.
Listen.
But the
Okay,
U-
we're
but
not
the
getting
US
monetized, right? We're not getting monetized. Listen, I don't think Brazil has got more funds than the U.S. I'll be honest
No.
with you. It's like, you know what I mean, man. Come on,
And
man.
this isn't in the presentation, but that reminds me of the complete fabrication that came from Joe Rogan, which was that there are schools that are putting litter boxes in the bathrooms for kids that identify as cats. One, there is not a single source anywhere in the world that claims that as a primary source. There is no, my kid took a photo of this, no, hey, I'm a teacher at this school, this is what we're doing, no internal documentation, nothing. You want to know what they do have? There are a few schools that have litter boxes in the bathrooms so that if there's a school shooting, they can still pee and not make noise and not flush, so that shooters won't know that they're in the bathroom. That
What?
does exist.
Fascinating.
And so back to the presentation itself, though, but speaking about how trans people, how they pretend that trans people are the real threat to children, a moral panic with murderous intent. For anyone that might not know, I am very much on the far left politically, if that wasn't obvious enough from this presentation. But I wasn't always like that. In fact, I used to be a self-identified libertarian and was raised by Tea Party Republicans. In case anyone isn't familiar, that's basically the precursor to QAnon and the modern alt-right. And what do QAnon, Pizzagate, the Epstein files, and alt-right people have in general? An obsession with accusing people they don't like of being pedophiles. Much like Pablo Escobar started a campaign called Death to Kidnappers, there are many, many people who will openly advocate for the death penalty of anyone convicted of sexual crimes, especially pedophiles. And just as you can see a reasonable argument for why someone who might believe in capital punishment might think that kidnappers would deserve the death penalty, I can think that most of us would see why someone who also agrees with capital punishment might think that those who harm children deserve such a severe penalty as well. Hell, I've been a mandatory reporter for almost half of my life. But do you know who Pablo Escobar loved to accuse of kidnapping? His political and cartel rivals. He rallied the people of Colombia to destroy his rivals, gain immense power, and seem like a savior in the process. And I should note, he was gaining political power at the same time he was gaining criminal power. He was an active participant in the government while also being a drug kingpin.
It would be crazy if one of your members of state was like a criminal. That would be wild.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
who
who
does
could
the
imagine?
alt-right-
No,
and-
that's impossible. Forget it.
who-
No,
who does
what is
the-
this? The Onion?
I know, right? And who does the right, not just the alt-right, but nearly an entire half of our political spectrum, what do they love doing? Conflating trans and other LGBT plus experiences with grooming, pedophilia, and child abuse. It doesn't take a degree in political science to see exactly what these people are advocating for. A quiet genocide. Now, the word genocide has been thrown around a lot in the last few years. We've reported on coverage of what China is reported to have been doing to Muslims, Ukraine and Russia are accusing each other of atrocities, and the entire world is seeing the open and bold-faced genocide of Israel in Gaza. That Israel is conducting in Gaza. So you might first think I'm just trying to throw out attention to the plight of trans people by throwing out the G word. But let's look at the facts. If lack of access to a particular resource or service would result in your death and your government blocks access to it, that's genocide. That's a direct quote from the History Wizard, a person on Instagram who has a master's degree in Holocaust and genocide studies.
I was like, who is this History Wizard? That the title is fantastic, but I don't know how official that source is. But if they're a channel on Instagram, that's great.
Let's also point out very briefly that the destruction of a cultural identity is also a valid definition of a genocide.
Yeah.
And there is absolutely an effort to do that.
Well,
as
and
it's
that's
forced
the thing.
sterilization, and there are many people who, in the past and present, who have advocated for sterilizing anyone LGBT+.
Eradication, sterilization, or displacement is the third thing. Those are the three things that qualify a genocide.
So, what resources or services are being denied that would lead to such a claim? Well, RFK Jr., the head of the Department of Health and Human Services, stated last year that he opposed gender-affirming care for minors. That's the man who decides what we can and can't eat, drink, what our therapists and psychologists can and can't do, what procedures we can and can't have, etc. And this isn't part of the presentation, but this is also the man who chugs raw milk, even though pasteurization has saved untold billions of lives.
Wait, whoa.
Yeah,
You mean raw milk?
Mr. Brainworm.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr.
straight from the
Brainworm,
people.
Mr. Shot at Bear and dumped it in Central Park, also drinks raw milk, which has not been treated in any way, shape, or form. He also recently went swimming in a river and made a whole "I'm all about them freedoms" kind of statement about it. But the reason why access to the river is blocked off is because it contains parasites and highly lethal viruses.
Well, so does he, so it's
and
fine.
he took
His parasites,
and
his
his family.
parasites.
He took his
I also
family there
like
to
this.
swim.
He's swimming outside the stream in East Palestine, Ohio, where the fucking train blew up, and he's like, the government just didn't want you to live your freedom. That's why they won't let you swim in this son bitch right here. Hell, man.
So,
I mean,
sorry,
just quick sentence. I'd like to also point out that one of his brainworms actually died in his head,
Yeah, because
like
of the tuna
without
thing, right?
any involvement.
They starved.
Like that is like kind of impressive.
Sorry, my bad. I had a brain aneurysm. I was
It's okay,
doing my
it's alright,
Brandon
brain
Jr.
worm.
impression. Wasn't it great? No,
It's
but
okay. When the ADHD hits, it's crazy. I get
didn't
that.
he die because he like got too much mercury in his blood because he ate so much like tuna or whatever?
Who are you talking
no,
about?
he's alive. He's alive.
I haven't
and
heard-
he's
I
alive.
haven't heard-
Head of-
No.
I haven't heard
RK
that.
Jr. I mean his brainworm. His
Oh.
brainworm
Yeah, like,
died
I-
because he ate too much mercury. Is that not true? Chat.
I have no idea.
Chat, is this real?
Kill your parents.
I haven't heard that. It would not. I haven't heard that. It would not surprise me.
I am a little tight on time. So
sorry.
let's
Yeah, go
hold
ahead.
that for later. As
We'll come
funny as
back to
that
it.
is,
We'll
let's
circle
hold that
back.
for later.
Let them
Also,
fight.
just last month, Trump defunded the National LGBT+ Youth Suicide Prevention Hotline. I'll repeat that. The Suicide Prevention Hotline. The tool that exists explicitly to make one of the most vulnerable people groups in America to suicide less likely to die was specifically defunded. The
Pro-life,
Supreme
by the
Court-
way.
Do what?
Pro-life, by the way.
Yes, pro-life, but anti-suicide prevention. The Supreme Court ruled that states can ban HRT or even gender-affirming care, and now they have. 27 states have banned one form or another of HRT, pronoun changes, or gender-affirming care. And it's at this moment, at the risk of sounding cliche, I'd like to draw your attention to a little place called the Institute for Sexual Science. The Institute was a German research site for gender and sexual studies, and was a leader in gender-affirming care. What happened to this wonderful place of knowledge? It was burned. Estimates vary, but up to 25,000 books, journals, and studies were burned by the Nazis because they viewed anything other than cisgendered, heterosexual, monogamous relationships as perversions and evil. It was literally the first thing they attacked. Before the socialists, before the Jews, before the Poles, they came for LGBT plus people and the doctors who supported us. They came for us first then, and they're coming for us and immigrants first now. And this isn't in the presentation, but I should also mention, just back to the hypocrisy of fascism that has run through its entire existence, more than half of the leaders of the Nazi Party were adulterers. I think it was Joseph Goebbels. I
Yeah,
think was
Goebbels
like the
was
propaganda head,
prolific.
and he had like multiple affairs to the point that Hitler ordered him to stop having so many affairs because it would look bad for the party if the party
You're
if one
getting
of the
too
party
much pussy.
leaders.
You're making us look bad.
We support the cisgendered heterosexual monogamous relationships, and you're having sex with everyone. That's not okay. Um, so I know this presentation wasn't exactly fun, but it's been weighing on my heart since November or so of last year when Skipty came up with the idea while I was venting in the server. I want to end the presentation with this. First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me.
I was thinking of that quote as you were talking about this.
And
Very famous poem.
that is why trans people are scared right now.
Well, thank you, Jesse, for presenting about this. I do recognize that it probably was not the easiest thing in the world to sit down and write, you know,
No.
what do you say, 12,000 words about it?
16,000.
16,000 characters, and it is 42 slides.
Yeah, and you're barely even scratching the surface of like the rabbit hole you could get into with that topic.
There's so much surface level stuff that I was not able to get into, and a lot of the a lot of the things that I mentioned were like a lot of them weren't even in the script itself. Some of the like individual incidents that I mentioned that they're not in the like when the Buffalo Wild Wings thing happened, or things like that. Let's see. Manuel asks, question: are there any studies on why trans people are more likely to make less money or are homeless, or will that be addressed later? I mean, yeah, I basically addressed it. There's mass harassment, there's mass workplace abuse, there's rejection of job opportunities, there are people being fired for their for how they are. It does cost money to be trans in a healthier way. Like you can always the first things that I did were all free. I just changed what pronouns I was using. I changed how I wanted to be addressed by my friends, things like that. But then if you're buying makeup for the first time, if you're buying dresses or different clothes for the first time, hormones cost. I think I pay like $30 for a 90-day supply of my estrogen, and then another $30 for a 90-day supply of my testosterone blocker. So I mean that's another $60 every 3 months that I'm dropping on things like that. It's not quite as severe as why Black people tend to be less well off, because with Black people it traces more to a history of poverty, abuse, slavery, obviously, and poor economic outcomes and poor connections to family. W.B. Du Bois did a wonderful book called The Soul of Black Folk, and he goes into the he lists an example of there's a poor Black man that his child is sick and there is plenty of medicine to heal them, but he doesn't have the money he needs. He writes to his parents, they don't have the money. He writes to his brother, he doesn't have the money. He asks people in his church, they don't have the money. He asks everyone he can, they don't have the money. He's trying to work as much as he can, he's not getting paid enough money. And his child dies of an easily preventable disease because he does not have enough money, because no one has enough money, because it takes money to make money. And the thing that a lot of people don't realize too is not only do Black people have it generationally. They are generationally screwed over out of it. You can be successful, but your starting point is much further back. But then when you look at trans people, they don't have as much of a pushback for that. But a lot of trans people do start over fresh. A lot of trans people get kicked out of their home. They don't get college paid for, or their first car paid for, or even money for a deposit for their apartment, or even here's some chairs and silverware for your apartment. It costs a lot of money to move into somewhere on your own, even if you have roommates, because you have to get silverware, you have to get cleaning supplies, your toiletries, maybe you don't have a bed, maybe you don't have a computer. And I know people will say, oh, a computer is a luxury. No, it's not. It's not a luxury anymore. It hasn't been a luxury for about 10 years, 15 years. You have to have a computer to apply to jobs, to apply for government things. You pretty much have to have a computer to do your taxes. Like, so there's a lot of people that just don't have anything, and so they don't have the money to start out that you need, so you can start saving, so you can start investing, so you can start being better off. That's completely off the script and everything, but I just, as soon as I saw that question, I was like, I need to talk about this.
Right, and it's just
I got a genuine question, if I may.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I got a genuine question. So there's like a bunch of statistics you mentioned in your presentation, right? Like, where can people learn more about this? Because like,
Call to action.
I'm not from the U.S., so like, I'll be honest, like, I don't know what the hell is going on over there, man. Like, I keep up with the news once a month, but like, that's pretty much it, right?
Hey,
So
nice.
it's
Where'd you get that news
difficult to
from?
like keep up with all of this. Where can I like find more? You know?
Tell you what channel should I do it in? Off topic, or I'll drop my sources.
Yeah, hell yeah. I feel like a Redditor on my sources.
Let's do like forget it. I'll just take over lecture schedule for a second. So the Williams Institute Trans Workplace Discrimination from November 2024. Here's the Washington Post article about the Walmart bathroom. It did not make it into the presentation, but also the Human Rights Campaign has officially declared a state of emergency for LGBT plus people in the U.S.
Hooray!
Not to interrupt you, Jessica, but it is what you mentioned about the Nazis burning the university that focused on gender studies and things like that. That's actually a really famous case study used in like even like some of my history classes. That
I didn't have to look anything up for that. I knew offhand because it was such a, like, if you learn anything about Nazism and the rise of fascism, you learn about the Institute of Sexology.
Yeah,
but so I dropped in the lecture schedule my sources. So there's the Williams Institute Trans Workplace Discrimination November 2024 PDF, the Washington Post article, Walmart fires woman who reported anti-trans threats from a man in the bathroom, from the HRC, for the first time ever Human Rights Campaign officially declares a state of emergency in the U.S. Another Williams Institute, LGBT people are 5 times more likely than non-LGBT people to be the victim of, I believe it continues to say, discrimination. The Wikipedia link to the arrest of Marcy Redkin, which they have social media and they are active on social media, last I checked. And then a CBS News link to RFK coming out against HRT. And I mean, if I can just say, thank you, Ivy. Yeah, it was indeed a very heavy topic, but I was very nervous. I did like 3 run-throughs, 1 by myself, and then 2 with 2 people from my server, like some of my friends, like 1 each time. But I mean, and just from like personal experience, like with HRT, I am happier. I am less irritable. I mean, like the rest of the news team can say, like, I probably nearly got kicked off the news team because I was so emotionally unstable at the start of the year, and then I got on HRT in February and it all disappeared. I got like, was it Skipty that I like was like nearly got into a freaking shouting match with, I think.
Over text, I suppose.
Yeah, probably. Well, you know, full caps, angry texting. and it's like I nearly I nearly burned down a bunch of bridges with my with family members and friends and stuff. And then I got on HRT, and my fuse is longer. I'm less irritable.
Like here's the thing, okay, and this is coming from somebody who is I am a proud ally. I make no claim to the trans experience myself, but I try to listen to everyone around me who tells me how it is.
Yeah.
I have two siblings who have non-conventional genders. I have had friendships with people. I've immersed myself in the culture as much as I can. Dysmorphia, whether you as an individual believe that it should be real or not, is real. If somebody feels uncomfortable in their skin, there's no amount of, oh, well, you should just be happy with how things are, that you can tell someone, because they are truly, deeply uncomfortable. And the ability to treat that at all is a good thing and should be done.
I genuinely, so about a month ago, because I think it was the start of last month, I know I talked in the server about the crazy dude that came into work and was like screaming at me and stuff. I think it was about a month ago. So about a month and a week ago then, just for whatever reason, I ended up dressing femininely about 4 days in a row at work. That's what was clean and I had to hand. And then on that Wednesday, I just threw on a polo and some dress pants and went into work because that was what was to hand. And I felt terrible the entire day. I felt anxious. I felt uncomfortable in my skin. Like, I was literally, I talked to one of my coworkers. I was like, why is it that this is the slowest day we've had all week, and this is the most anxious that I've felt this week? I have anxiety medication for as needed. I took my anxiety meds, and I still felt terrible. And then I just had a realization, and I just looked down at what I was wearing and went, oh, God damn it. And I realized, oh shit, this is gender dysphoria I'm feeling right now. And so I tried, as soon as I got home, I put on a dress, and immediately I felt so much better. I have not worn a polo or a dress shirt or a suit since then for almost a month. I've actually sold a lot of my ties and tie bars and pocket squares to some of my coworkers because I had a very extensive and very good taste collection of them. And so I've actually made a little bit of money from selling those to them. And like I even like maybe slightly TMI, I even like text my family. I was like, under absolutely no circumstances am I to be buried in a suit. I will haunt all of you for eternity.
That's great.
But so, and I've felt so much better. I felt so much more comfortable. I went from taking my anxiety meds almost every single day, because it's an as needed thing, almost every single day, to like once a week, maybe twice.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable because, I mean, for the fellow heteronormative cisgender white guys in the chat, like myself,
for the guys,
the
The
best way
boys.
I can think to people who don't understand dysmorphia like at all, like imagine if you woke up one morning and everyone around you, all your friends, all your family, everyone that you encountered that day expected you to wear a dress.
Yep.
And they looked at you like you were a freak show if you weren't wearing a dress and would question you and say, dude, why are you wearing a dress? What's wrong with you?
When they walk into your workplace, take one look at you and go, oh, never mind.
Yeah. Like it's like just it's a simple thought, but I mean when I was like starting to come to understand things like this, like it helped me put it in perspective. Like if I imagine myself having to wear a dress at work all day, like that would make me rather uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah. I've used the actual example with the tailor where I work, where she was asking, she's I don't know, late 50s, early 60s, something like that, and I just said, how would you feel if if the manager came in and said, hey, this new policy, you need to wear a suit every day, you need to wear a suit and tie and cap-toe dress shoes, and you can't wear makeup, and there's still some disconnect, but I mean, trans people are probably a new concept to her in general.
Yeah.
But like, there was some understanding there. Like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I wouldn't like that either.
Yeah, It just put. I mean, basically, all I'm saying is have empathy. But
yeah, that's really what it comes down to. Like, stop caring what people are wearing. If no one is running up to you and like shoving their genitals in your face and saying, "You need to," I don't even know what the equivalent straw man argument would be. Just trans people aren't hurting anyone. They're not hurting anyone. Stop caring whether or not people identify as male or female.
Well, and to go back to what that crazy guy said, it was like, I said, you're dropping f-bombs, you're spewing profanity in front of your two small children, like.
And you think the person who's
okay?
who's like passively comfortable expressing themselves is somehow the worst example for your children, not you parading this customer service employee in public.
And he said, it's not as bad as what you're doing. And I hate that I wasn't able to put more in there on the idea of trans people's existence being treated as pornographic, but there are absolutely people who, like, the big problem is people get obsessed with viewing it as a sexuality thing, not a gender expression.
It's the fetishization of the identity,
And fetishization. It's not a sexuality, it is a gender identity. And until you can view those as separate things, you will always view it through a at least somewhat fetishistic lens. And if it's a fetish, then it's inappropriate and it shouldn't be visible around children. And if you talk about it around kids, well, then you're, talking about sexual topics around kids. But that's the thing. It's not a sex thing.
Well, like, pardon my straight Southerner brain, but
spoken with the Southern molasses drawl.
Hey, man.
I'm from Birmingham.
The reason that the T is included in LGBTQ is not because it's a sexual identity. It's because it's under the queer umbrella, and they face basically the same problems that queer people face in terms of fetishization and demonization of their identity. It's not because it's a sexual identity. It's just because they suffer the same shit. It's not.
Yeah, not everyone who's against gay people, for example, is against trans people, but everyone who is against trans people is against gay people.
Yeah, there is no Venn diagram there.
The J.K. Rowlings of the world.
Yes, it's a circle inside of another circle. There are some people that's only in the outer circle, but everyone that's in the inner circle is in the outer circle.
I think this kind of, especially with perception, it falls. There was like a study about the perception that women talk more than men as a stereotype, but the study suggested that women and men usually speak the same amount, women often less. But if one woman speaks in a group of men, and other kind of like stereotypes and minority groups do similar things, that's like that one singular voice is then seen as like equivalent to the rest of men, and then as more women speak up, the perception to a lot of the people made it seem like lots of those women were speaking up and were being more talkative, even though it's just.
I hate to drop a demonetization bombshell. And I hate to drop a demonetization bombshell in the tip. I'm gonna be listening, but
Jess has to get going, but we have
interacting very much.
Yeah, we have her on speakerphone.
Thank you for presenting, Jess.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you for demonetizing us immediately.